Alrighty then, we are live, making sure everything is working the way it's supposed to. It is indeed. It is indeed. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? Let's get everybody in here before we get started. I would hate for any of you to miss my most valuable updates. I don't know what you guys would really do without me. You'd be so lost. So let's make sure everybody gets in here. And as you guys know, I love to know where you guys are from. So, let me know where you guys are at. I see Trieste, Italy. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, sorry. Canada, Kilowana, Canada. Let's see, Denmark, Sicily, Lincoln City, Oregon, Pakistan. Welcome, welcome. And from another Baldy from Russia in St. Petersburg. Nice. Thank you for joining me, fellow bald man. I'm going to retweet my thing real fast, and then we'll get into it, boys. Slovenia. Jim Smith, welcome. One of my most loyal haters. I love to see the OGs in here. I heard that Ukrainians are stockpiling supplies in certain cities, so that way, if the roads are cut, they can resist for weeks. Well, they can try. That's a bad way to go about business. So, Bristol, UK, Norway, Serbia, Paris, France, Mexico, Georgia, Somalia, Georgia, United States. Scott ignoring feed on purpose. No, there will be a feed stream. I just have to really start taking some big hits in the Ukraine information space. So before we get to that point, Portugal, Selydove is looking like it is about over. Yes. So we will talk about that today. We actually have a ton to talk about. The updates are coming faster than we've ever seen throughout this entire conflict. We're seeing dozens of square kilometers being captured by the Russians now every day. And this is really what I was talking about, guys, this sort of snowball that we're beginning to see. I've been talking about a collapse for about 60 days now, maybe 70. I'd have to go onto my calendar and look. But collapses don't happen in 5 minutes, right? Especially when you're dealing with something the size of a nation. They can happen very quick. They can happen rapidly. You can have this massive deterioration in any given armed forces or any government or any nation state, especially during a time of war. But normally the degradation comes slowly and the snowball sort of picks up speed. Look at World War II. You can see it in almost every aspect of World War II. The Germans were strong. They were strong until they weren't, right? Even at Kursk, the Germans seemed very strong, but they were already dealing with a plethora of logistics issues, morale issues, manpower issues, everything. And the daunting task of what was to come was even more morale breaking than the situation already was. So when you look at the Ukrainians, they're getting weaker constantly. They are not replacing their losses. They are not being given new equipment to replace their equipment losses. They are not mobilizing fast enough. They are not doing a number of things. And while all that's happening, the situation at the front is deteriorating daily. So you can see how the snowball is just gaining momentum. It's not going to stop. I've been reading some very copy threads on Twitter about how Russia, if they went to the negotiating table right now, would be negotiating from a place of weakness because Ukraine has a few positions in Kursk. An absolutely ridiculous sentiment, but one that seems to be the new hopium drive for the pro-Ukrainian information space. I don't know how they're wrapping their brains around this. Even when they're talking about, how many tanks Russia has left. They started with 8 to 10,000 and now they're looking at 3,000. And it's like, okay, well, Russian tank losses are much lower than they were early in the war. Russia is producing its own tanks, and it still has 3,000 tanks that the degraded Ukrainian army will have to destroy before they run out. It's just so preposterous that I'm having a hard time finding the words, outside of lunacy and being crazy. I'm going to just move this light real fast. Sorry guys. I have one light down low, and it helps to get rid of the shadow on the back over here. I have like 1,000 lights in my room. So remember guys, if you have questions like Ray Clark here, you can ask them through super chats, and I will answer all of them at the beginning, not at the beginning of the show, during the live stream. Any questions that you ask in chat normally, I may or may not get to. I just hop over sometimes and look at questions and see what's going on. We are 5 minutes in. We have 1,200 people in here now, so we should go ahead and get started. Any chance that Transnistria will be attacked by Ukraine? Likely not. You can see my dog Shadow. Likely not. Ukraine is already struggling immensely. Adding another front, another escalation point to the overall situation is not going to help Ukraine. It's not going to help them diplomatically. It's not going to help them in the near future when they're going to have to surrender and capitulate. So no, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. If anything, it would come from the Moldovan side. But then again, you're trying to push into an area that has a Russian tripwire, right? You do that, you might catch a nuke. It's probably not going to happen. All right, guys. Be sure there will be a new Patreon video going up today. I was going to post it yesterday. I haven't had time to go on and download it and get it over. So be sure to go and check out that. It will be up by the end of the day. You can watch all of those videos on my Patreon for free. You just have to join as a member. If you do wish to support me, I very much appreciate it, guys. The last thing that Patreon did for me was get me this mic and arm. So now I have studio quality audio-ish, sort of. I moved it. Shouldn't have moved it. All right. It's all good. And that is all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much. You guys are making my show so much better. I really appreciate that. Please go follow me on Telegram and Twitter. You can go find those links in the description of this YouTube video. Without further ado, let's get into these updates. Guys, there's so many updates. I really wanted to give everybody enough time to come in and see what's going on, okay? As you can see over here on my legend, we have a number of updates. I haven't even titled them all because I was doing them last minute just to get them in before the show. I haven't even presented all of them on my Twitter page where I present all of my updates. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it. No movement in the Kursk zone. Still heavy fighting. The Ukrainians are reportedly counterattacking towards Novovianovka. Right here, this little town, they were yesterday trying to counterattack. No real word on any success from that. Again, no real point in counterattacking here because you're not going to develop that into anything. The only reason you're counterattacking is sort of to create an active defense situation where, you know, the Russians are on the back foot. They might not have an initiative in a certain area, and you're trying to recapture an important, geographical important tactical geographical area or something like that. But yeah, this is just a waste of manpower. And while Ukraine is losing cities in the east, they are holding this pocket in Kursk for no real good reason. The reason, obviously, is that Zelensky, he's made it very clear. He said that this incursion is what gives the West, like, the idea that Ukraine is still strong and they're still fighting. It is literally his words. He's saying that Kursk is just this morale lighthouse now. And if Kursk goes, so does the hopes of, Ukraine ever getting anything beneficial out of a negotiated settlement or something like that. So really just not beneficial, but it's continuing. So Kharkov, again, no big advances here, just continued fighting. And now we will start to get into the advances. So here, Stelmakivka, the Russian forces have captured the high ground and pushed out. Remember, I just talked about this entire Oskal River region is going to be pushed. It's starting at the top. It's going to start at the top. These are the longest logistics lines now up here in these small villages. So this Oskal River region is the area where I think the Ukrainians should retreat from. This is not doing anything beneficial for them anymore, especially up in that northern pocket over near Kupiansk. get behind the river, set up strong defensive lines, and defend behind the water barrier. That's the best way to go about this. They're not doing that, and they are going to lose a ton of equipment and manpower trying to hold this, and they're going to lose it anyway. So, again, remember what I talked about in my last live stream. I really think that the Ukrainians are trying desperately to hold on to every single inch until the election. They're trying to make it seem as though the war is going okay, because if the war starts going sour, that's going to hurt Kamala terribly, right? It's going to benefit Trump because Trump's already talking about cutting off aid and stuff like that. So it's sort of just a it's the best that they can do right now, because their only hope is either Western intervention or a magnitude of Western support, which the West is not capable of giving, nor do they really want to at this moment. All right, moving down into Chasiv Yar, we have a major update down here, guys. As you can see, those few bridgeheads that the Russians had, this bridgehead has already expanded, obviously, but these small bridgeheads in the suburban area here and over here in Kalinina on the high ground have expanded tremendously. And now the Russians actually have a very large zone of operation, a bridgehead, if you will, into Chasiv Yar proper. They likely control about 30% of Chasiv Yar. Remember, this is a different settlement back here. If you want to call all of this Chasiv Yar, they probably control 20% of it or so. So this is a big advance here, and very, very bad news for the Ukrainians, who will try to hold up in this industrial zone for as long as possible, as it is the dominant high ground in the entire region. All right. Okay. Moving down here into the Toretsk, New York front. Russian forces have advanced out of Leonidivka and advanced towards Petrivka and Shcherbernivka. Why you would name a town Shashur, I'm not exactly positive. However, again, remember I talked about this just being an area where the Russians should be able to advance sort of along this valley. Really hard for the Ukrainians to defend this. And this pocket is what we're looking for to close. If this pocket closes and the Russians can capture these two terikons, the battle for Toretsk is going to come to an abrupt end. We are looking now at multiple sections of the front that are just completely faltering. And the Ukrainians have no means to stop any of them from collapsing in the way that they are. And they're doing almost the worst possible thing, and that's trying to defend everything instead of defending specific things and letting things go. And that is making the attrition and the overall degradation of the AFU faster and less effective. You know, if you're going to have your army get degraded, you want to do it in the most efficient way possible, so that you not efficient in that you're being degraded, but you want to, if you're going to expend resources, you want to expend them in the best possible way you can to, increase your endurance in the battle, increase enemy losses, whatever it is. That's not what the Ukrainians are doing. They're fighting a war on the map where they don't want to see, if they're using my map, they don't want to see any green. Green is death for them. So that's their play. But as you will see here down as we get into the Pokrovsk-Selydove area, the situation, what is happening? Why does this keep happening? Okay, you guys get to see me. I've fixed this section of the map like 4 times, and whatever is wrong with this polygon right here, this Selydove polygon, it refuses to stay where it's supposed to stay. So as I'm talking about Selydove here, I'm going to be updating this map because I've done this now 5 times. I know exactly where these lines need to go and everything. This is making me rather upset. So Selydove, as we've talked about, the situation around Selydove has deteriorated significantly. And then today, over the last 24 hours, it does... Did I mess up here? It does appear that... Oh, I did. I messed up. Oops. It does appear that the Ukrainian armed forces have retreated from Selydove. The Russians seem to be moving through rather easy. The only place we're actually getting talks of battles is over here in Vishneve, which is the sort of the rear area of Selydove. I'm going to continue updating this map, so please just bear with me, everybody. I know I should not be doing this in the middle of my thing, but I literally just fixed this map like 3 or 4 times, and it keeps doing this. I don't know why. It's very frustrating. But as you can see, and I will zoom in here so you guys can see better. I know exactly where all these lines go. The Russian armed forces now control more than half of Selydove. They have penetrated the high-rise areas. So this is more or less what the situation is looking like, and I might do some small changes as I zoom in here. But as you can tell, the updates that happened yesterday, this is down too far. I need to move this back up. Oopsie. Boom. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's hope that this stays now, because that's so frustrating that happened. Okay, so now that Selydove actually looks the way it's supposed to look, the city has just collapsed, right? Basically, we talked about it. This was the last line of logistics into the town. Logistics, when things are good, is already difficult for Ukraine, right? When logistics are strong, when logistics are safe for Ukraine, they're still not good right now. A year ago, logistics were fine for the Ukrainians. Now, rotations, we're seeing areas that don't have issues with rotation having an issue, and then the Russians achieving a breakthrough on the back of that failed rotation, right? That's sort of just the general situation. And then once you get into a situation like we have around Selydove, where the main logistics lines have been cut, supply is nearly impossible. Maintaining these positions is going to be ridiculously hard. Morale is low. Just everything is not going your way. You don't have the ammunition. You don't have the manpower. The manpower that you do have doesn't want to be there. They've been fighting for over a year. All of the brigades you're sending in have already been, exhausted in other points of combat. So Selydove it's a microcosm for the health and the overall situation of the war. You're watching a city of 24,000 people being captured like that. This is sort of an Avdiivka, if you will, and it is being captured in a matter of days, not even weeks. Obviously, the Russians were on the outside of it. I'm considering this sort of week, once they've really entered Selydove and begun offensive operations in the region, as the beginning of the overall Battle of Selydove, right? Just like with the Battle of Bakhmut, I'll come over here just because everybody remembers that. Remember, the Russians had made it to Bakhmut. They had made it to this outer industrial area. But really, the Battle of Bakhmut didn't begin until the Russians got into here. And truly, the Battle of Bakhmut didn't begin until Soledar fell, the salt mines fell, Pereska-Kivka fell, and then Wagner got up into Kleshchivka and then over here by Ivanivsky. That's when the Battle of Bakhmut really began. And you could see the same situation where a year ago in 2023, when the Ukrainians were much stronger, they were able to maintain this battle in Bakhmut for a very, very long time, even though they were under the same basic preconditions of only having one road in and out, and that road being heavily targeted by artillery and FPVs and stuff like that, right? So that's just a way for you to sort of analyze the health of the conflict. Obviously, Selydove is a lot smaller and not as geographically beneficial, but the fact that the Russians surrounded it in about a week and a half and are now halfway through it, in all of these updates happened within the last 48 hours. So this is all happening extremely fast. The city is going to fall probably by tomorrow. You're going to see most of the city gone, just because there's literally no point in the Ukrainians sitting in here anymore. And when I talk about this being the end of the Ukrainian defense network in the east, at least in the southern portion of the front, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And as you can tell by the title, oh, wait, the title is October Surprise. As you can tell by the thumbnail, the Russians are now in a very advantageous position to basically push all the way into the Dnipropetrovsk region back over here, right? You can see it runs down here, up against Donetsk right here. This is the dividing line, Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk. And if you come back here and look at the overall situation, and we're going to go look at the topographical map, you can see that there's a valley right here, or a low point right here, and a low point up here, which creates this giant space that the Russians are going to be able to exploit, right? So coming off of the back of Selydove, the Russians are going to have this huge area that they are going to be able to push into rather rapidly. I'll do that, just that color. So you can see that this is going to, if the Russians are able to achieve this, again, the reason why I say this is because the only remaining high ground in the region, if you come straight out from Ukransk here, is Novo-Alexivka and Yorivka right here. This is the last remaining high ground, if you can even call it that. It's only a few 100 feet different from, or a few 100 meters different from other areas in the region. So really, it's just this sort of, it's a step. It's what the Ukrainians have been fearing. It's the reason why the Ukrainians have been defending the east. This is just open. There's nothing here. It's just fields, right? And the Russians might not be able to move into this during the muddy season, but as the ground hardens, as the battles of Selydove, as the battles of, Hrinki, this pocket close, as, the southern area gets wrapped up, as Kakove falls through the muddy season, you are going to see this become the new exploit for the Russians. They're going to try to bypass Pokrovsk from the south, cutting these logistics lines heading in. Hopefully, if you're the Russians, you can make it to the E50 and just force the Ukrainians out of Milgorod and Pokrovsk over the winter. The winter is going to be incredibly difficult for the AFU, and as you can see, I have mapped all of the defensive fortifications, right? There's still some up here that the Russians need to get through. There's still some over here, but the Ukrainians are not digging back here. There's nothing to dig to. There's no roads to connect it. It's just a nightmare in terms of defense. So after Selydove ends, you're not going to see an immediate Russian breach and a massive push. Most likely, you could. The Russians are very strong in this region. More than likely, what you're going to see is just this entire southern flank sort of line up. The front line is just going to level out along this reservoir right here, capturing Kharkove, capturing this southern road that runs out of Kharkove down to Velika Novosilka here, and potentially capturing Velika Novosilka. So the map is moving very, very quickly now. I'm sorry that I have to stay so zoomed out, but this is the reality. We're not talking about fields anymore, or a tree line here, a tree line there. Now we're talking about cities falling. And I had made this comment a few months ago, is you are all going to be very surprised when in a couple of months you just start seeing town after town after town after town falling. They're just going to go and go and go and go and go. So yeah, that's sort of the overall situation there. Moving south here of Selydove, we have a small Russian advance outside of just north of the poultry farm here in Tsukurin. That is, again, just part of this idea that I'm talking about, where the Russians are going to push through these fields towards Novo-Alexivka and towards Yorivka here. So just watch this area, because it's just empty, right? It's just empty farms. It's just farm fields. It's not even farmhouses. It's just these small farming towns and empty open farmland. And this is where you will begin to see maneuver warfare. This is where you're going to begin to see large aero offensives. And remember, the only thing that's keeping the Ukrainian line together at all is drone operators, right? Those drone operators are becoming an endangered species. They're being targeted. And if the Russians can force a 5-kilometer breakthrough anywhere on the entire front, those UAV operators are going to be overrun, and then the entire line crumbles. So it is really a very desperate situation for the Ukrainians, and one that I have talked about for months on end, and we knew was coming. At least everybody who believes me and follows me should have known that was coming. We got a question. Is Serbianka falling to Russia true? Are you referring to the forest area, or a town specifically? There's a bunch of different places that have different similar names. I'm just going to go ahead and continue. If you want to put your explanation up, I would like to see what exactly you're referring to. All right, here in Izmailivka, the Russians have captured the village. It is sort of a environ of Khinki here. So again, this whole pocket is just going to close the same way Selydove is closing. The situation is not good, guys. This is what we've been talking about for a very, very long time. This is the snowball. It's just going to get worse and worse. I mean, look at how much territory that the Russians are capturing. This is crazy. This is crazy. I did a live stream 2 days ago. This should not be happening, right? If you've been watching the war at all throughout the entirety of it, you would know that this is an absolute insane amount of progress being made with relatively low losses and relatively ineffectual Ukrainian defense. Again, the eastern portion of the pocket is continuing to tighten. I think that most of this will be captured by the end of the week as well, just because there's just really no good way of holding it now that the Russians have progressed so much to the rear. All right, another small advance here towards Kharkove. I think I actually did this one last time. I might have done this one. But Russian forces have now entered Kharkove and are pushing towards Kharkove. So this is going to be another battle that you will see take place over the muddy season. All right, just to the south, Katarinivka here. You can see that the Russian forces have just advanced to the south again. And then over here around Ugledar, Russian forces have pushed out and expanded their zone of control, pushing for Bohoyalnivka, and most importantly, this defensive fortification right here. Okay. Last update today, guys, before we go and look at the topographical map, is a Russian advance in the Zaporozhye area in the direction of Holyapolye. Remember, I talked about the Russian objective over the muddy season into the winter being the capture of Velika Novoselka, Holyapolye, and Orikhiv, gaining them access to all of these road networks, and then the ability to explode north into the Dnipropetrovsk region, capturing all of Zaporozhye, and then putting a lot of pressure on the rear of the Slavyansk-Kramatorsk amalgamation. All right. So just for clarification, I want to go over to the topographical map. So look at this area. I'm going to show you this exact same area, but on a topographical map. All right. Okay, so here is Ukrainsk right here. Here's the Terikon. Here's Selydove. Here's the large Terikon in Selydove. Half of it is about captured. You can see after this area right here, there is nothing. There is nothing out here. And remember, I talked about the last little bit of high ground being up towards Yorivka and that Novo whatever town right here. So this is the only remaining high ground in the region. And as you can see, as we pull the map this way a little bit, here's that high ground still. You can see these two valleys that I'm talking about, and this massive area that is just exposed and will likely be captured by the Russians very fast. The next possible defensive line I see for the Ukrainians is on the backside of this, although it's going to be very difficult. This is what we have been waiting for in terms of like when you're making predictions about the war. In 2022, you had a lot of people saying, you know, once they get through the Donbass, this is going to happen. And then the war switched to an attrition war where they weren't necessarily going for territory. They were just going to degrade the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army is now degraded. Now you are going to start to see that maneuver warfare that we've talked about so much for so long. So things are not good for Ukraine. They are currently losing Toretsk, currently losing Chasiv Yar, currently losing the Oskal bridgehead, currently being forced out of Kursk, currently losing Selydove, currently losing the Hrinki pocket, currently losing their entire southern flank, experiencing tremendous issues on the Zaporozhye line. Things are not good, everybody, for Ukraine. Now would be an amazing time to start considering negotiations, because things are just going to get worse and worse and worse, and your position of negotiation is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. I'm not saying that Ukraine even has the option to negotiate with Russia right now, because I don't know if Russia wants to negotiate with them. But what I am saying is, in terms of Ukraine's position in this war and the West's position in this war even, the situation is not going to improve at all. It will not get any better from where we're at right now. It is only going to get worse. And if clear-cut decisions aren't made by leadership, you will see the Russians take basically everything that they want, and Ukraine will be destroyed as a state. Not the actual state, which is kind of funny, because as we're looking at the Battle of Selydove, we can see that... here, let me take us back over to the map. As we're looking at the Battle of Selydove, we actually have videos from these residential areas, and they're completely intact. There's some broken windows here and there, but the buildings aren't burnt out. They haven't been bombed completely. The city looks pretty intact. And it's quite interesting that the Russians only destroy Ukrainian cities when the Ukrainians decide to defend the cities to the bitter end, right? This is sort of a narrative we've seen with Mariupol, with Bakhmut, that, oh, the Russians are just here to destroy our cities. If you look at the rest of Ukraine, it is functioning almost normally, outside of a few, power generation issues here and there. But even then, everybody still has power. There are no rolling blackouts right now. The Russians are not in Ukraine to destroy Ukraine. You don't destroy a place you're wanting to take over and then control, right? This is something that the U.S. has never learned. When you're nation building, going in and destroying everything and then coming in and trying to fix it all that after you've destroyed it, first off, makes you a lot of enemies, makes you not very pleasant to be around in terms of the local situation. But there's just so many negative impacts to it. And the Russians are going about this war a different way. And I think you're going to see the results at the end of the war. You're going to see all of that payoff, all of the struggle, all of the, why isn't Russia doing this? Why aren't they doing that? At the end of this conflict, when the Ukrainians lay down their guns and they say, the Russians aren't really that bad. We were just lied to, and we believed it. And some Western Ukrainians have some World War II beef with the Russians for some reason, right, with the Soviets. It's going to be a much easier transition period. You're not going to see a massive guerrilla war. You're not going to see this insurrection campaign. It's just, everybody's just going to want to go back to their lives. And they're all speaking Russian anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. All right, that's it for my map updates, everybody. That takes us to 30 minutes. Hopefully everybody's doing good. Yeah, hopefully you guys are doing good. All right. Let's get in. I have some articles I want to talk about. Actually, I'll just talk about the Israel situation right now in the Middle East. Israel is still talking like they're going to do some big strike. It's coming. It's coming now. It's coming tomorrow. It's coming soon. Just wait for it. Edge me harder, daddy. Sort of situation that we always get in the Middle East. This attack is now becoming one of the most telegraphed attacks in all of human history. More so than Iranian attacks, if you can imagine that for a second. The Iranians had to wave a red flag above buildings for 6 weeks before they decided to do something. And they only ended up doing something after they were openly shown that the West was lying to them about the concessions that both sides were willing to make to resolve all this, right? The Israelis are asking for a second THAAD, so we're likely not going to see a strike for a while. However, I cannot commit to that because the Israelis are saying that they're going to strike at any moment. They've been saying that for 2 weeks now. We'll see. Not really a big deal. Serbianki Forest. Oh yeah. I forgot that this was a sort of an area. I've just left it because we have two different mapping sources telling us two different things. Syriac Maps is saying that there's nobody in here, and SOFA General is saying that the Russians have captured Serbianka. I don't know. We haven't gotten geolocations. These are all frontline reports. I don't know what sources they have in the region. I don't have any sources in the Seversk area at all, so I can't tell you guys. We have seen a heavy amount of TOS, thermobaric munition use in the forestry here to the north. But in terms of the actual situation on the ground, I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Not really majorly important either way. If it is, I'll update it and the Russians will be here. If it isn't, they're back here and it doesn't really change much. It's going to be difficult for them to push into Seversk from this area unless this entire pocket closes. Oh, this is good. This is a good topic to talk about as well. Would you agree that Russia is upgrading North Korean army? If World War III starts, can we can add war on the Korean Peninsula? I don't understand why this is such a big deal. I don't get why. I mean, I get why the West is trying to make it into a big deal. They're trying to make their axis of evil. I get it. But Russia and North Korea are strategic partners that share a land border, right? Would everybody be so upset if some Chinese soldiers went into Russia's Far East for training? Does it make any difference at all? No, it doesn't. The issue comes if these troops are engaged in conflict in Ukraine, which I absolutely do not believe that they're going to be. If there are troops, Lloyd Austin came out today and said that there are North Korean troops in eastern part of Russia. And I'm like, and who cares? Like, who gives a shit? They're partners. They give each other hypersonic technology. They give each other all sorts of stuff. And you're worried about 3,000 North Koreans that are training at a training camp in the far east of Russia. It's like, okay, we've been training Ukrainians all over the place for forever, and those people are actually going to fight in the war. So, no, it's just hypocrisy. It's just fear-mongering. It's just blah, 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 blah nonsense. And I'm actually going to go over and talk about one of my articles here because I have something just about that. North Korean troops have been sent to Russia, U.S. confirms. Here's Lloyd Austin talking about it. The comments by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin were Washington's first confirmation of a major development that has seen South Korea and Ukraine sound the alarm in recent days. Seoul, South Korea. North Korea has sent troops to Russia. The United States said on Wednesday its first public confirmation of a move that has rattled Western allies and could mark a major escalation of Moscow's war in Ukraine. See, that's the thing. Troops can go wherever they want. If they go into Ukraine, that's the escalation. Why would Putin do that right now? Does he need help capturing Selydove? Nope. Does he need help doing anything? Are North Korean troops going to even be a net benefit if they are engaged? You're talking about 3,000 people? That's not even a brigade. I mean, it might be a brigade, depends on what size your brigade is. That's not enough to do anything. That's not enough to change anything. If they're in Russia, they're there to train. End of story. This is the most ridiculous, low-tier propaganda I think I've seen from the administration thus far. The whole Iran is giving ballistic missiles to Russia. That was pretty low, but they've already given them drone technology, so I guess that one has a little bit more suspicion and false legitimacy, I guess I would say. But this North Korean thing is just a joke. I would be laughing at this if I were you guys. There is evidence of DPRK troops in Russia, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told reporters in Rome, using the abbreviation for North Korea's formal name. Blah, blah, blah. What exactly they are doing is left to be seen. Yeah, because they're training. What they're doing is sitting in some rainy, cold Russian military base in the Far East. That's all that's happening. And the reason why he can't say what they're doing is because they probably don't even know if there's actually North Korean troops. They're just assuming that the intel coming from Seoul and Ukraine is accurate. This is just nonsense. They came out 2 days ago and said that they didn't have any information, but now they have information. It's all just a joke. This is just nonsense. And every single idiot for a country mile is biting on it, taking the bait without even a second thought. It's pathetic. All right. Moving into my next topic here. I'm going to go with this. Putin scores a BRICS win with a rare Xi and Modi show of harmony. So this is something that I think is wildly overstated. Obviously, there are some territorial concession or territorial disagreements between India and China. And there are some hand-on-hand battles, but they've removed the guns from the region. It's one of these areas that should be resolved. I don't know why they haven't resolved it. Obviously, China and India are not the closest allies, but they are regional partners that have no interest in going to war with each other. It's a ridiculous sentiment. They're both in BRICS. So this whole, Modi and Xi are on the same page is just a Western attempt to show some sort of division between India and China, because the United States thinks of India as sort of an ally in the region, whereas India is more like a Turkey, where they're just going to do what's best for India first, always. And if that means, going along with BRICS, that's what that means. If it means going along with the United States, that's what that means. I don't know. I trust the Indians economically to stay on side with the Russians, but they are still in that sort of middle area, that gray area. I think that they are now moving firmly over into the Pan-Asian sort of alliance idea. All right, got some questions here. Russia should put North Korean flags. They are already. They're doing a little bit of trolling all up and down. Yeah, it's kind of funny. What will happen once Selydove falls? Thanks. Yeah, I talked about it. That entire area west of Selydove has no defenses prepared, has no urban areas to defend from, and it has very poor logistics through the fields. So the Russians should be able to press the advantage in that region and gain a sizable chunk of the area west of Selydove. It also is going to expose the southern flank of Pokrovsk. South Korea are thinking to send troops to Ukraine to fight North Korea. This is the most ridiculous nonsense ever. I can't believe people are biting on this stuff so hard. It doesn't even matter until it happens, right? So just wait until it happens. Otherwise, you're going to look like a dork talking about things that are not even in existence. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit of this, though. Wrong one. Kazan, in Russia, October 23rd. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Modi used a BRICS summit in Russia on Wednesday to showcase ambitions for a more harmonious relationship between the world's two most populous countries after years of animosity. See, trying to create sort of this animosity. Yeah, they have so much animosity between each other because of a small border dispute in the what is it, the Himalayas? I don't know if that's the mountain range in Nepal, I think, kind of area. But they're immense trading partners, and they are codependent on each other in the region to keep vital trade routes open, to keep both of their economies moving. This sort of division that the West tries to create between the two doesn't hold very much water. And as you can see through BRICS, it definitely doesn't hold water because they're trying to create a more harmonious relationship. The meeting between Xi and Modi, who have not held formal talks for 5 years, Xi doesn't talk to anybody, so that's not really much of a statement. He barely talks to Putin in person, and he's one of their closest allies, was one highlight of a summit which President Vladimir Putin sought to use to show that the West had failed to isolate Russia over the Ukraine war. They proved that in 2022 when everybody kept buying Russian manufactured goods, energy. They showed that already. So no, Russia is not isolated. And as much as Reuters wants to try to convince you that they may be potentially isolated, they are absolutely not. So yeah, this BRICS summit is quite a big deal. I think in the next day or two, they're going to present their new banking. What would you call it? It's like SWIFT. It's like the Russian SWIFT, right? BRICS is SWIFT. They have an alternative banking system that is going to allow countries that are fearful of sanctions to have an alternative to the Western hegemony banking system that is the SWIFT system. So I believe that this is going to be presented here soon, and that is going to be a major shift. They also said that Putin made it very clear that BRICS is not going to be accepting any new members after the most recent acceptances, although they do have something like 32 applications pending. Those will eventually be added. BRICS will expand. He did make that very clear. It's just they're going to solidify the countries that they have in right now, get this banking system online, and then go forward from there with their expansion of BRICS. So BRICS is becoming the alternative in the multipolar world, and Putin made it very clear that this is not a consequence of the Ukraine war. This is a consequence of all U.S. foreign policy, all hegemonic foreign policy, I should say. It's not just U.S. that forces countries into a place of either immense insecurity when it comes to their financial situation, their ability to pay off loans, stuff like that. As we saw, Russia defaulted on their loans because they had no ability to pay into the system because they had been banned from it, which is not really defaulting on your loans. It's just fake defaulting for a propaganda take that the West used. But for smaller countries, this matters a ton more, especially if you are actually being isolated and you aren't a nuclear superpower that can destroy the entire world, right? That's what this new BRICS is. All right, guys. Why are all my ads food related? Are there ads on right now? I literally have it set so that I get to manually insert the ads afterwards. Are you telling me you guys are seeing ads right now? I don't want you guys to have to see ads while we're doing the live stream. I'll talk about this at the end. My friend. I always like to talk about my workouts, but I'll wait until the end. No ads. Okay, good. Glad you guys aren't seeing ads right now. All right, here we go. This is from AP. This is partially another part of the reason why you see so many countries rushing to BRICS, right? I was talking about this for months because they've been trying to make this where did that AP article? Oh, there it goes. They were trying to make this happen for a very long time, basically stealing Russian assets and technically it's the interest on their assets. So the money that has been made through interest is now being rerouted, stolen by the G7 countries and being sent to Ukraine to fight against Russia. This is a horrible decision. When your entire livelihood as a nation relies on your ability to be a financial institution, right? That's what Great Britain is. Great Britain does not have an economy outside of its banking, right? It is the World Bank, or it was the World Bank, right? This is when you talk about GDP in the West, a lot of it is because of this. And when you are openly showing that if you don't do exactly what these countries want you to do, they are going to steal your assets. They're going to use that money against you to kill your citizens. Why would any country sit here and let that happen? And the argument is, well, Russia invaded Ukraine. They were the aggressor. They were the bad guys. So we should be able to use their money. They forfeit that money once they do that. I'm going to go ahead and ask, did Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Iraq, I mean, Iraq kind of did something in the 90s, I guess. But honestly, in 2003, did Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, did these countries do anything to deserve the sanctions that they received? You know, everything that came after the initial invasion. Like, what did Syria do? What did Bashar al-Assad do to have, you know, potentially his assets frozen, whatever money he's keeping in Europe, whatever money he's keeping in the United States? What did they do to have those assets stolen from them, which is a huge no-no in banking? Don't steal people's money. No matter what they do, don't steal their money. There's a reason why this has been so hard for the West to do. They don't have any other options now. This is the only way they have to go about it. So this is some extension of money. 50 billion, still not enough for what the Ukrainians need. Still not enough to pay off their debts that they're racking up, their loans that they have. It's not enough, but it is something to keep them going. And what it means is that you are sacrificing your credibility with the global community in terms of your ability to keep their money safe. I'm not keeping my money in Europe if I'm Zimbabwe. I am not keeping my money in Europe if I'm Thailand. I am not keeping my money in these places because I know that in a moment's notice, all of my foreign assets are gone. It's a colossal mistake by the West. And this is why you don't hold on to hegemony at any cost. This is why you don't you don't double down on every single venture you're partaking in, because you are going to start cutting yourself with a double-edged sword. Sanctions were that, right? Stealing assets is that. Giving all of your military equipment away is that. You're just watching Europe basically kill themselves in a fencing fight with a double-edged sword. It's pretty pathetic. Why did the Russians succeed in building trench defenses in open fields, Surovikin line, that are not in urban areas, but it's not working for the AFU? Because the Russians had complete peace for the most part while they were building those lines. If you remember, Bakhmut was going on, and the Ukrainians were doing other things in other places. So the Russians backed out from Kherson. They started immediately building those lines. They dedicated manpower, a lot of manpower, to building those lines. They had equipment working 24/7, and that equipment wasn't being harassed. If the Ukrainians want to build lines like the Surovikin line behind where the area they're at, they have to have available manpower. They don't have it. They haven't had it for a long time. They don't have 10, 20,000 guys to say, hey, we need you to go dig trenches right now. It's not realistic. Right. Also, the war is never supposed to reach that point. If the war reaches that point, that those lines aren't going to matter for the Ukrainians. Right. Whereas the Russians were looking at, we have one vulnerable area where if the Ukrainians can punch through, they could seriously threaten our positions in Crimea and all of this other stuff. So that's why the Surovikin line was so desperately needed. If you look at what the Ukrainians are dealing with, the entire front behind where the front line currently is needs Surovikin lines. That's going to be 50,000 men working for 6 months with tons of equipment that the Ukrainians don't have. while being harassed by glide bombs, ballistic missile strikes, likely strike drones here in the near future. We've seen the Ukrainians try to build defensive lines in areas like Kharkov and Kursk, and it never works out. Plus, it's so goddamn corrupt in Ukraine that they can't get anything built anyway. So, yeah, it's a very different contextual situation for the Ukrainians. Biden had Afghan assets were given to 9/11 victims, which was stupid with the situation with the Russia. Yeah, which is crazy because the Saudi Arabians were the ones who funded all of that. So maybe we should have taken the Saudis' money and redirected that to the families. But no. See, that's all that oil money, and those are the good guys. Those are the good brown guys in the region. So yeah, it's just a complete joke. It's a mistake. But the difference here is that Afghanistan doesn't have a lot of say on the international stage, right? 9/11 was a history-altering moment that shocked the entire world. The U.S. was at its peak of hegemony at that time. So there was nobody to be like, hey, that's not probably the good thing to do. And nobody really cared. And other countries were like, hey, they're not going to steal our money because we're not going to 9/11 them, right? But now you're looking at Russia. You're saying, well, the West couped Ukraine, was creating a Cuban Missile Crisis situation on the Russian border, provoked a Russian invasion. The Russians invaded, and then the West has been fighting this proxy war for 3 years when the Russians have very clearly been asking for negotiations the entire time. The West has tanked negotiations over and over and over again. So if you have a realistic leadership in your country, say China, say India, say Saudi Arabia, they're looking at this and going, oh, I could be next. The next Ukraine project could be Taiwan, right? It could be any country next to you, any proxy that doesn't like you. You could be next. And your money's not safe if they decide that you are the enemy, right? Because 20 years ago, Russia was not the enemy. But now, Russia is the enemy. And luckily for Russia, they got a lot of their assets out of Europe and out of the West before the war. They still lost about $400 billion in foreign assets. It's a big deal. All right, I have another article to read. Where's my last article? Okay, yeah. So this is just, I'm just pointing this out for propaganda reasons. Some of you live in France. Some of you read France 24. So here we go. Let me get a second one. Okay. Host Putin. This is kind of funny to me. I just think of when somebody says something like host Putin or something like that, it makes me think, really, dude? Really? He just knocked down my light and then picked it back up again. I just like to think of him with like an apron on, and he's like running in and out of the kitchen trying to get people's stuff, and he's like worried. He's like super concerned. Here, come here, buddy. Come here. Come say hi to everybody. He's a big dog. There's a big dog. That's just what I think of when I read that. Host Putin. Okay, sorry. ADHD got me. Let's get back into it. Putin faces calls to end the Ukraine war at the BRICS summit. I didn't hear this. I didn't read this anywhere. So I'm interested to see what they're going to say about this. Russian President Vladimir Putin faced direct calls to end the Ukraine conflict from some of his closest and most important partners on Wednesday as world leaders gathered in Russia for the second day of the largest diplomatic forum held by the country since it began its invasion. Oh, not its full-scale invasion. Neat. Of Ukraine in early 2022. Here we go. World leaders called for peace in the Middle East and Ukraine at the BRICS summit in Russia on Wednesday, as President Vladimir Putin told them he welcomed offers to mediate in the Ukraine conflict. So, if we take 2 seconds to understand what the article is actually talking about, it's not saying that some of his closest allies were like, hey, listen, Putin, you have to stop this war in Ukraine. No. These countries came out and said the absolute bare minimum that you have to say to be diplomatic, right? We want peace in the Middle East, which funny that France 24 isn't talking about the immediate calls for the United States to end its support for the war in the Middle East or the rising tensions in the Middle East, right? No, didn't mention that. But Putin's closest allies are saying, hey, you need to end the war, because they're saying, we want peace generally. We want the war in Ukraine to end. We want the war in the Middle East to end. You know what Putin also says? I want the war in Ukraine to end. You know what Zelensky also says? I want the war in Ukraine to end. You know what the United States also says? We want the war in Ukraine to end. Everybody just says that, and nobody actually wants it to end. So it's this is propaganda, and you guys have to be very careful when you just read a title like this, and even like the first paragraph. This is misleading. Nobody sat there and told Putin he had to end his war. I bet everybody was smiling, laughing, and saying, man, I can't believe you're making America look as stupid as you're making them look right now. And they're getting themselves into an even stupider situation in the Middle East. Yeah, it's a joke. We're a laughing stock. We're a laughing stock, guys. What happens after the war when rich Ukrainians who fled with the wealth want to come back to Ukraine? Why would you want to come back to Ukraine? The hell are you talking about? Why? If you have a bunch of money and you can go live in Europe and not be in Ukraine anymore, pretty sure most of those people are just going to stay away, especially if the Russians are running the country. No, they're just going to go live in their villas for the rest of their lives with however much money they stole and whatever cushy fake exile position that they have until, I don't know. I hope they stole enough money to make it through the rest of their lives, because I don't know what they're planning on doing outside of that. But I don't think anybody's coming back. Fix this light real fast because my dog kicked it. Okay, there we go. If you guys have some questions, that is it for me today. I would love to see what you guys want to talk about. I have probably like 20 minutes that I can talk. So chop, chop, boys and gals. If there's some gals in here, hit me up. It's never gals. It's all the guys in my chat, in my Telegram chat, that for some reason have to say the most homoerotic stuff to me, which, by the way, I love it. I love a little homoerotic every now and then from the bros. Any comments on BB's Villa drone strike? Just sending a message. We know where you are. We can hit your house if we want, blah, 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 blah. He's got bulletproof windows and, it didn't do anything. It didn't hurt him. It's just a show of force. Don't forget about what you worked out today. I haven't worked out yet. I'm going to go hit arms later today. My workouts have been crazy. My food has been crazy good. My body weight, I'm getting up closer to 240 now. My legs are filling back out. So I'm just at the point where I am about to maybe commit into doing another show, something like that in the near future. I'm not sure. And when I say near future, I mean like a year. Like I'm going to need a year to get into like show stage ready. But things are going good in the gym. I'm very much enjoying my life right now. So thank you all so much for your continued support, watching my videos and just commenting and everything. It means so much. If you guys could subscribe, if you're new here and you could subscribe, that'd be awesome. We are getting close to 30,000 subscribers, which I'm very excited about. So question, does your dog wake you up all the time? I thought you were about to start asking me questions about my explicit marijuana use and how I include my dogs in that. Sometimes my mushroom use, sometimes my heroin use. It's like a 70s movie in here. Does my dog wake me up all the time? No, my dog, Great Danes, well, at least my Great Dane and my American Bulldog, they both sleep in the bed with me. I have a king size bed. I like sleeping with my dogs. Some people don't. I understand it, but I love it. It's like my thing. I like having them there. I feel way safer if anybody breaks in. I have an alarm, I have multiple alarms to wake me up that have much better hearing and scent than me. And a Great Dane is scary. So if I open that door, You know, it's scary when that dog comes at you, especially in the dark. He's all black. No, he does not wake me up all the time. In fact, I wake him up and he gets so angry at me. I wake up all throughout the night. Especially now that I'm not smoking weed, I'm up and down, I'm doing stuff. He will literally like growl at me if I wake him up and make him move so I can get out of the blanket or whatever. It's he's awesome. He's the bro. What do you think the forever president's exit plan is? How much money he has? Oh, he's just going to do the same thing that Guaido did. I mean, Guaido was never really the president of Venezuela, but if Zelensky is not killed and not couped, he will definitely go into government in exile, where they claim to be the leadership of Ukraine, this, that, and the other. We've seen it in Belarus. We're probably going to see it in Ukraine too, especially if there's a major collapse. I can't eat enough to even consider proper bodybuilding. Yeah, dude, I fully feel that, because for the last year, I've been eating what I am comfortable eating, or, you know, a little bit less than that, and further back. I've been eating pretty good for a while now, but in terms of volume of food, yeah, it's a nightmare for me to get food down, especially my 35 to 4,000 calories that I need to be in a surplus. Is just painful. It's painful. All I do is drink like protein shakes. You just have to start drinking, because liquid calories, you can get so much more in, and it digests so much faster than food. Are you getting shredded for the comp? Well, I'm not going to be fat, so yeah, I will be shredded. I'm not cutting down right now, though. I still need to put on a bunch of size. What is your thesis regarding investing, macroeconomic, stock market, etc.? Crypto. I just have now. I'm starting to get big enough where I have a bunch of companies trying to get crypto advertising on here. So don't be surprised, guys, when you know, extra ultra light super duper coin is being advertised on my page. No, what I would recommend for any American is there's multiple apps where you can go and invest in partnership with people like Nancy Pelosi, because their trading is public. I have made an incredible amount of money just sort of hitching my, leash to that situation. She has insider trading information. So why wouldn't you do exactly what she does? She's making money. So I will literally go on my phone and look at my portfolio, and I get an update saying I bought some random, chemical company, and then that chemical company jumps up 30% the next day, and I sell it because she sells it, and I make a bunch of money, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I didn't even have to do it. So that's what I'm doing right now, and it's working very well for my portfolio. What I would recommend in terms of what I personally do, I scour. I try to add as much of my geopolitical knowledge into the equation. You can make a ton of money off of, minerals, like anything in that gold, silver, oil, anything like that, just by buying and selling as the market goes up and down and recognizing patterns. It's a little bit more difficult, but yeah. You make a living solely off of YouTube? No, I have other income sources. I have multiple passive income sources that I have in my normal life. I also have different income sources from this as well. This is what I would say is like the bulk of my time investment is this. But this is what I say is my job. When I tell people what I do for work, this is what I say is my job. It's not my entire income source. If I were to lose this, I would be probably 40% cut off from what my total income is. So, but I like to put all of this money right back into my stuff. So, my PC, the mic, everything like that is all because of you guys. So thank you. Scott, if when Kursk is retaken, do you think they will immediately push into Sumy, or they lock up the AFU forces? Just depends. I don't know what the Russian plan is. I don't know if the Russians even want to walk into Sumy ever. You know, my take is push out to the river, end it at the river, let Ukraine exist over there, and move on from that, because that rump Ukraine is never going to be able to rearm. It is never going to be in a position to do damage. It may just be reinvaded if that comes up again. So I don't know. If I were them, yes, I would push into the Sumy region immediately. Why not? Add another hotspot that the Ukrainians aren't going to be able to deal with. The goal right now should be basically getting the Ukrainians to surrender. We're looking for a capitulation, and they're going to call it a negotiation, but it's going to be a negotiation from the worst possible terms for Ukraine. Can you tell us in metric? I can, but I don't know what you're talking about. How difficult do you think it would be for the Russians to take the rest of Vovchansk? Not difficult. Not difficult, but why would they, when the Ukrainians keep crossing that stupid river and trying to get in there and mess everything up? They're just expending resources to hold that aggregate plant, or, I mean, the Russians control the aggregate plant now, but, that area. Kupiansk front, how will the Russians tackle it? They're just going to go right down the Oskol. If you go and look at the Oskol north to south, they're already collapsing the northern section of it. If you go to my map, you can see it. I guess I can take you over to my map real fast. But they're just going to, as you can see right here, they're just going to push down. They're just going to push down because this river boundary right here is not beneficial for the Ukrainians. This is a pocket now. Same with this pocket up here. This pocket's going to just be pushed out, but this one is going to be a north to south push. Okay. That's nasty. Poop on pause. Yeah, bro. Shit. You're right. Fuck. I never thought of that. Also, they're dogs. They're gross, bro. They're gross as is. But you know what else is gross? Humans. You're just okay with human grossness. And no, their paws do not have a bunch of poop on them. They definitely don't walk into my house with poop on their paws ever. As I don't think that has ever really happened in all of the time I've owned these 3 dogs. I don't give a damn about that at all. Like, I've never one time had poop on my bed because of the dogs, ever. I have dog hair on my bed. That's annoying, but do you get kicked at night by dogs? No, they actually tend to sleep on my girlfriend's side of the bed. We have a giant California King thing. It's huge. And they don't like to sleep on my side because I have an AC that blows right in my face because I sleep so goddamn hot. And the dogs don't like to sleep on that side. So I usually actually have a pretty good night's sleep. Let's see. Where would Zelensky escape? Why would anybody want to escape to Israel right now? Holy hell, no. Even if you had ties there, I'm not going to Israel right now. Sorry, bro. Definitely going to be in Florida or Italy or something like that. Question. Since you've been saying you've been getting back into bodybuilding, I was wondering what your current measurements look like in terms of height and weight. I am 6'4". Sometimes, so I've been measured 2 different heights in competition. I've been 6'4" and I've been 6'3 3/4, right on the boundary or whatever. So whatever you want to call that, 6'3", 6'4". And I'm currently 240 pounds. I usually sit at like 230, 228. That's where, for most of the time that you guys have known me, that's sort of where I've sat, is like 228 to 235. And now I'm getting 240. I can really start to feel the weight coming on my body, or going onto my body, and my lifts are getting a lot stronger. So that's good. I eat like a pig. Good. Just don't be fat like a pig. You can eat like a pig. Just make sure you're exercising on the back end of that. Does it snow in an atomic winter Plow driver. It can snow. It definitely can snow in a nuclear winter for sure. Now, depending on how much damage is done to the ozone, you might see reduced rainfall in some areas. Who knows? But also, people have been suggesting that there's going to be reduced rainfall in a lot of areas because of global warming, and particularly in the area that I live, we have seen an increase in rainfall, an increase in everything becoming more green and everything like that. So, I just would be careful with all of that guesswork. Question. I have a doggo and she what's your height? Around 66'4". Yeah. Some dogs, dude, can just be the worst. Get boy dogs. If you want good dogs, just get a boy dog. They're so good. Do I have any windows or am I living in a bunker? That's a window right there. I told you I had natural light today. I have an office now, guys. I don't have a. I wish I was in a bunker. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool theme for a podcast. That's what I should make this, huh? I should put up like a bookshelf with like food and gas masks, which I do have back behind me, and then that would look cool as a background. Take care, brother. Good to see you in here. What do you do outside of politics, movies, etc.? No, I am not an actor. As devilishly handsome and charismatic as I appear to be, I have never been in a motion picture. I'm just kidding. I play video games, obviously. I've talked about that. Warhammer right now. I have like 10,000 hours or 12,000 hours in Dota. Since I was like 14, I've been playing Dota. I love Fallouts, the Fallout games. I'm currently playing Fallout New Vegas again. I've played it like 9 times now, so I do that. Movies. I love sci-fi movies. I like particular movies. I'm like a snob when it comes to movies. I hate cliche movies. I hate movies that I can very easily predict every single thing that's going to happen. I don't like that at all. I love twists. I love surprises. And I love it when the bad guys lose at the end of the movie. Terminator 3 is the best movie of all time. The bad guys win, but the Earth is destroyed, and it's basically like they lost, right? They failed to achieve their mission successfully at the end of that movie. So I think Terminator 3 Terminator 1, 2, and 3 is the best movie trilogy of all time. 4 is just a remake in my mind. I don't even count 4 and whatever comes after it. Those are just money grabs. But 1, 2, 3, and 4 are excellent. You should have considered professional boxing. I used to fight nonstop in my youth. All I did was fight. I really, really, really enjoyed fighting. I loved getting hit. I used to go I dropped out of high school. I did really good on my ACT and was just going to college early. So my senior year, I didn't end up going to high school. After football season, I was done. I would go to high school parties almost every weekend, sometimes college parties, and I would take boxing gloves and $50, and I'd say, if anybody wants to fight me for $50, win or lose, they get that money and they can go out. And I just got so good at fighting everybody. Sometimes I'd fight people that were way better at fighting than me, and I'd get my ass handed to me. But I got really, really, really good at, I don't know. You wouldn't call it hand-to-hand combat because I'm not trying to kill the person, but fisticuffs. I got really good at the old fisticuffs. And then you get to a point where you don't even want to fight anymore because you kind of know what fighting is. Like, I don't want to smack my head off the concrete, and I definitely don't want to smack some poor bastard's head off the concrete and then he dies and I go to jail for manslaughter because I just wanted to fight. So stupid. Anybody who's good at fighting and knows how to fight doesn't fight because they know exactly what fighting is. I have not ever played Counter-Strike. Ever. Well, I played Counter-Strike on the Xbox when I was like 8. can you unban me from my Telegram channel? Hey guys, if you get banned in my Telegram channel, listen to me. Listen real close. Come here. Bring it in. I don't control that at all. I don't control the Telegram chat at all. Just send me a DM and say, hey, this is my username. Can you unban me? And I will most likely unban you. Odds are you probably got banned by MV, and he just bans people sometimes that he gets into arguments with, which is funny to me, sort of. I think chat is just kind of like a entertainment thing. It's just like, that's how it is for me. So yeah, if you get banned, you might have gotten banned by Rose for absolutely no reason. Rose is our bot. And if that's the case, just send me a good old DM and I will get you unbanned immediately. No questions asked. I don't care. Don't be racist. Don't be a Jew hating piece of garbage. Don't be a Russian hating piece of garbage. Don't generalize and hate people for really no good articulatable reason. And it's all my personal bias. So I don't think you can really articulate good reasons for that in general. Just don't do that and you won't get banned by me. And if you want back in, I'll let you back in. I'm all about second chances. Yes, smash that like button, guys. If you don't mind, it helps me so much. The videos that get more likes initially get seen by way more people. Are you looking forward to Stalker 2? I am, but I've never really been into those style of games like Escape from Tarkov and stuff like that. But I do want to play Stalker 2. I've been watching some of it. Do the Russians aim to encircle Pokros from the south? I would say that is a good possibility, yes. I think the Russians will take it however it comes. But if it comes in that way, if the south is open and they can surround it, why not? We got some questions here. Ever played Metal Gear Solid 1 for PlayStation? Yes, I've played all of the Metal Gear Solids. Yeah, I do like those games. Snake? Deep down, I believe the war has happened due to the fact Eastern Ukraine is resource rich. Is it really Nazis or larger market share for centuries? No, Nazis is a problem in Ukraine, but Nazis are a problem in Russia, right? Nazis are a problem in the United States as far as, they are problems. It's slightly different for Ukraine because they have their national hero being Stefan Bandera, who committed atrocities against the Poles in the Ukrainian SSR. So there is sort of a more rich and integrated, systematic interest in Nazism in Western Ukraine. But in the East, it's not about Nazism at all, really. That's just sort of a propaganda line that makes your invasion seem less wrong, right? And that's exactly what it was. The real reasons were NATO integration, right? They couldn't allow Ukraine to integrate into NATO. You can't lose Ukraine geostrategically. You do want to protect Russian language and peoples, right? But that is, again, another, what I would consider an excuse for the more important aspects of this invasion, which is Russia's geostrategic interests. And part of that does come into resources, but no, the war is not being fought over resources. It's not like the US wars in the Middle East, where we were going in and just going for the oil and to dominate the region. Not saying that can't happen, but right now it's not how I would characterize the war. It's not a resource war. Resources are there. The winner gets them. It's part of it, but I wouldn't say it's the driving factor. Super sticker. Thank you, Marco, for your super sticker, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you. Remember, you guys can ask questions too. Try Dark Souls games. Yeah, Dark Souls and Bloodborne. They are very, very fun games to play on high difficulty. I like those games. Games that are designed to make you hate yourself are some of my favorite games of all time. I love them. Have you guys ever played like Get Over It? Like that climbing game? That one's pretty funny too. Which other countries would benefit from some Russian denazification? Um, I don't know about denazification necessarily. Countries that I think would benefit from integration, Moldova. I think that a lot of the Eastern European countries would, there's like the fear that it's going to be like the Soviet Union and communism and all that. When realistically, I think that the right choice for a bunch of these countries like Hungary, Romania, maybe I know that these are pipe dreams. I'm not saying this, but those countries would do the best economically if they were to ally themselves more closely with Russia and China and BRICS and go in that direction, rather than holding on to the United States failing hegemony and Europe and the EU's crumbling economic situation. The Baltics, I think the Baltics would also just be better if they were Russian. But I'm not saying that it's okay for Russia to go in and just take over those countries. They have no pretext right now. They have no reason to go into those countries like they did in Ukraine. I'm not justifying any sort of additional Russian invasions. I'm just saying if I were in those countries and I could have a peaceful transfer of power, I would rather be in the Russian sphere of influence, getting cheap Russian energy and enjoying that direction and its prosperity rather than declining with the West and holding on to these liberal ideas. Yeah, I want kids. I want a lot of kids. I love kids. I just want to be in the position where I can dedicate all of my time to being a dad and really raise my kids properly. My dad did a very good job of raising me, and I want to follow in his footsteps in that way. I would really, 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 I do. I want a huge family. I'm like 4. I would like 4 kids, I think. Already answered that one. Fighting is dumb. That is a quote of the day. Already did that one. Let's go all the way down to the bottom here. How old am I? How old do I look? Go ahead, throw your guesses up in chat. Let's see. I'll do this. Can I give you one of these? How old do I look? How old do I sound? Because I always think that my language, my communication skills, 32, okay, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 56, 78, holy, 28, 29, 45. See, I think I look 33. I think if I was like, if somebody said, hey, you're 33, I'd be like, sure. Yeah, I'm 26. For those of you who don't know, I'm a little baby. Just old enough to be considered an adult. I am 26 years old. No way, yes way. I actually started balding when I was 19. It's just like my dad. So, right there. You actually look 20. Well, yeah, if you look at like this part of my face, I'm actually pretty young. I don't look super old. It's the balding. It definitely is. Testosterone maxing. No, I like I said, when I was like 22, people were like, "Are you 27?" And I still had my hair. I was like, "No." People just think I'm old. Here's the thing. People say this, what happened? Oh, what happened? I'm going to be this for the next 50 years of my life. And that's awesome. Right? All of you are going to have midlife crises. I had mine when I was 19 and 20. I had to come to the acceptance that I was losing my hair. I've lost it. I have confidence with my no hair. I'm already set, right? All of you poor saps are going to get ugly and gross. I already got to my most ugly, and now I'm just got to stay right here for a while. It also helps me murder with older women, and you get so much undue respect that you don't deserve. It's awesome. Being bald, you look like a cop. Everybody thinks you're a cop always. Get ID'd everywhere. It's I was not born with this beard. In fact, when I was like in high school, bro, I was like, I'm never going to be able to grow a beard ever. And then something happened. I don't know. Something crazy happened and my hormones changed and and my hair started growing. Yep, being 6'4" and 240 pounds of muscle also does help. You're right. Losing your hair at 40 is worse. Yeah, because like when you think about it, you've spent your whole life using your hair as like a crutch for your success. And I mean, if you're married and you're going bald, that doesn't really matter. But guys will go and drop like 20, 30 grand on like hair treatments and hair plugs and stuff because they're just so desperate to maintain that image of themselves. Whereas I was like, man, if I shave this, I hope my head looks good. And then I shaved it and my head looked good. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a bald guy. Ooh, I'm going to be a good bald guy for a long time. Exactly. You are lucky that your head fits the baldness. That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. My hair was never as good looking as me bald, for sure. The only thing is I'm kind of like a huge like softy. Like I want to talk to everybody and I want to be super cool and nice with everybody, but people immediately assume that I'm a prick just because I'm bald. Scott is coping, maybe. Maybe I'm coping, but I have a girlfriend. I'm enjoying my life. I like the direction I'm taking with my career. You know, I am happy right now. And if that's coping, man, I'll just keep on coping because I love that. Do you think the PRC will intervene on the Korean Peninsula if it goes hot again like they did in the 50s? No. No, 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 no. The war is going to be completely different. It's not going to be a large infantry invasion war. It'll be the destruction of Seoul and North Korea's economy or South Korea's economy via strikes. Like that is what that was going to look like. Because you don't need to invade. You don't need to invade to destroy nations anymore, right? It's not necessary. If you can disrupt their economics, if you can cut them off, they're not going to win the war, especially South Korea. They're hyper dependent on their technology industry. Why are lancets so effective and switchblades are pieces of shit? Because switchblades are super light. They don't have a lot of weight to them, so they get blown around really easily. They can't operate in weather at all. And they're incredibly susceptible to GPS spoofing, which is what the Russians are extremely good at, and electronic warfare, right? So that's why, and the Lancet isn't going up against that, and the Lancet is been designed for this specific conflict, right? Maybe not this specific conflict, but it has been field tested, demonstrated in this conflict to be extremely effective, and it works here. We don't know if it's going to work the same in other areas, but right now the Lancet is the superior kamikaze system. Why does every stream end like this? Because I like to talk to you guys. I hate YouTube pages where I wish I could interact with the host because I want to get to know the person. I want to get to understand where they're coming from and what they're thinking about. For me, this is more of a conversation. I'm not telling you guys all of this. I'm not just like, you need to listen to me and that's it. No, I want to have a conversation. I want to disagree. I want to make fun of you, especially. This is like Twitter for me. I just turned this into my Twitter page. Live action Twitter over here. Thank you, Bob. I don't think I'm funny, but if you think I'm funny, then that's a win for me. Oh, the infantry invasions are cooler. Yeah, but they cost a lot of lives. I mean, look at Korea. Could Scott's hair reflect the sun enough to blind Ukrainians? I don't have hair. My bald head? Yes, it can. Brian has that. Brian like shaves. See, I have like I have a trimmer that gets really close, but I still have hair. Like I still have all my hair on my head. It's just a little thinned right here. So like I have all my hair and I can feel it. But Brian is like skin bald, which I'm gonna get there eventually, probably. You are lucky not to know us. That is probably true for some of you, but for some of you, I'm sure we would get along just fine. I can drink whiskey with just about anybody. If you just sit me down at a table with you know, a bottle of Slain or, I prefer higher end whiskey because I'm a snob, but I will drink with anybody. I think everybody has something to offer that I have no ability to understand. Right? This is something that I've tried to make a rule in my life is that every single human being, even if I think they're complete idiots, like, say there's somebody who's like a horrible Zionist individual who's talking about how Palestinians need to be removed from their land and it needs to be like they're like pro genocide, basically. I still think that those people have very important information and very valuable perspectives that even if I disagree with them, understanding them, interpreting them, and then even being able to use that against them in the future is vital, right? Communication is just so important. And so, I think that all of you are pretty similar probably in their mindset to me, I imagine, because you're here watching me day in and day out. But you could copy DPA and have open mic streams or phone in his stream. Yeah, I've thought about doing that. I just don't trust the people who hate me. You guys are awesome. DPA doesn't have hate like I have hate. Like I'm gonna get people coming in and dropping the N-word repeatedly on my streams just because they don't like me and they want to get me banned. But I think about it. Yeah, Knob Creek is good. No vodka? I like vodka, but I like vodka with like lemonade. Vodka lemonade's bomb. Cognac. Maker's Mark is good. Woodford Reserve is also good. These are all like the of all the cheap whiskeys. Like Slain is like my favorite. It's so smooth. Woodford Reserve is my drink usually of choice when I go out. If I'm at a bar or something, everybody always has Woodford. That's just it's easy. Jack Daniels. No, I'm not a big Jack Daniels guy. I can slam Jaeger though. Jaeger is bomb. I know that's not whiskey, but I can slam Jaeger. We're all idiots. Yeah, so am I. Zoom stream. All right, guys. That takes us to an hour and 40 minutes. I appreciate you all so much. I have a really great time in this last 40 minutes after I get done with all the boring stuff talking to you guys. I appreciate you all so much for being in here. Thank you for commenting. Just leave a like, leave a comment underneath. It helps me a ton. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate all of your support day in and day out. If the updates continue like this, we will be having daily live streams. So that is something that could very potentially be happening in the near future, especially with how things are developing. If we have anything close to the advances that we had in the last 24 hours, I will be here tomorrow to give you guys a live stream. If you follow me on my Telegram, you will know exactly when I go live. Also, turn on that notification bell for my live streams when I set them up. Thank you all so much. You guys have a fantastic week. Hit the gym, go touch some grass, go talk to a girl, go talk to a guy. There's no point in being sad in this world. You guys can all make your lives better. Just go out and do it. All right. Take care, be safe, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.